Hey folks, how's it going? Sean with the New Columbia Movement. Hope you guys are doing well. Also hope you can hear me. As you can see right now, I am out walking around in Washington, D.C. Last time I was here in Washington, D.C. was a couple months ago for some event. What was it? Oh yeah, that's right. It was the March for Life. We were marching to overturn Roe v. Wade. And interestingly enough, we've had some news lately that makes it seem like perhaps that's happening. So we'll have to stay tuned and see exactly how that pans out. But with all the hoopla that's been going on about it lately, I figured, hey, it'd be a good time to revisit our nation's capital and see just exactly what's going on, what's the general heuristics of the individuals here, particularly around the Supreme Court. Because as we know, with the recent leak of this draft opinion of the overturning of Roe, we've had quite the backlash and the outcry, somewhat predictably, from the left. Of course, this decision was not predictable at all. So I'm excited to see kind of what the turnout is. I've been seeing some social media posts for the past several days. I mean, this has only been 2 nights now, so for the past several nights, showing that yeah, there's been some activity around there. So we're walking, we're talking, we're making our way over there right now. Not exactly sure. Pretty sure I have to go up here to the left. So today's going to be a little bit more of an informal video, but I did just want to kind of give you guys a little bit of insight, and maybe we can go and talk to some people, see what's going on, and get their opinions on the matters as well. So some of my thoughts on the recent draft leak. First of all, shouldn't have been leaked in the first place, right? There's a lot of speculation as to why this was leaked, who it was leaked by. I'm not going to speculate on who it was. We don't have enough information at this time, but it was undermining the laws of our country, what that individual did. Not that all the laws are good laws, as is evidenced by Roe v. Wade, but this is a pretty cut and dry violation of a fairly standard and reasonable law, which is you don't expose the happenings of the Supreme Court. They have a very rigid, I don't want to say secretive, but secretive is probably the best word here, methodology of keeping these things behind closed doors because they are a court system. And these things aren't supposed to be out into the public. I mean, the decision wasn't supposed to happen until June, I believe, is what they were saying online. So we have to wait and see, particularly what is going to be the actual final outcome, because this is only a draft opinion and things can change, which I think is partly due to the reason that this whole thing was leaked in the first place, because they do want to change opinions. And there is somebody somewhere, there's a lot of somebody somewhere who have there's somebody somewhere that has the intention of influencing the decisions of judges by leaking something like this, right? There's a loud ambulance coming up, so I might have to get back to you guys in a second. Okay, we're back. Ambulance is gone. So what we were talking about? We're talking about the reason for the leaking. And it's because somebody is directly trying to influence these judges to be able to make a decision, not based on, the morality of the case per se, but more based on fear, ultimately, right? Because this is what the left is really good at stoking, which is fear. If you guys remember a couple summers back, not too far gone from that time, the infamous Summer of Love, where cities were burning all across the country because of a dude hyped up on fentanyl was fighting cops. And that was enough to get the left to riot in the streets, to cause chaos. That's what the left does. They exist in the chaos, right? This is what they do. So whoever leaked this knows that. And it's their intention to direct that chaos at a certain end, which is influencing the decisions of the judges here. So we'll have to see what happens. All right, I'm back once again. Sorry about that. Get around a lot of these loud trucks and loud people, and it's difficult to communicate. So, getting back to the left's reaction to this is going to be my main concern, because as I was talking about with the Summer of Love, this is the gray zone that the left can operate in, and it's that they are eternal relativists. So they can use violence when it suits them, and they can condemn violence when it suits them, and they have no qualms or quarrels about doing that. And I think the concern here is when we saw the riots in 2020, a lot of this was directed at the racial tension that's been mounting somewhat organically, somewhat unorganically in this country for several decades now. I think you're going to see a different direction with the chaos and violence that comes from this, if that does come. This is not a guarantee, but this is just I think, a fair assumption of mine, which is that this is going to be directed at those who oppose abortion. And abortion is one of those fairly simple black and white issues where there's not a lot of nuance in the gray zone. And the abhorrence that is abortion stems from a very moral, theological worldview. Christianity is absolutely opposed to abortion in every way. There are certain organizations who, wear the label Christianity like a wolf in sheep's clothing are going to tell you otherwise. Cough, cough, Catholics for choice. But they're not really Catholic, and any Christian who declares to support abortion is not really Christian. They're just using that label to support their own immoral ends. So my concern is when we get to a point where we're seeing violence, and I think we could see that, we could see that in the coming days and weeks. We could definitely see that if the decision comes to its full fruition. My concern becomes, who is this violence directed at, right? When we're talking about churches, Christianity, Christian doctrine, being in direct opposition to something like abortion, then I think you kind of see who the target's going to be. It's not going to be just so much of a spread shot of anger and aggression out into the streets, though you'll see that. But this is going to be a directed narrative shift. This is how we get, I think, to the point where Christianity becomes the enemy in this country. Now, the left sees this, I believe, as a winning issue, the abortion issue. And I'm not going to speculate or put on the tinfoil hat too much as to why this was leaked now, but I can say that the right was winning in this country. And we're not talking about the Republican rhino white, right? They never win. Their job is to lose, but to lose in style, right? The new right, the alternative right, the whatever right that you want to label it, we kind of know what we're talking about here. They have been winning in this country. Look at the grooming thing. Okay, it may seem counter to the point to say that the right's been winning when we're talking about literally our schools being infected with these demons who are trying to push the narrative of transgender ideology in the classroom. But nonetheless, there was a fight happening for it, and these people have always existed. It's just now a lot of this stuff is coming to the head because the new right wing is actually finding its voice, it's finding its fight in society. For so long, it's been this lie of like, well, if you don't like it, if you don't like what this business is doing, start your own business or go somewhere else. If you don't like what they're saying, don't listen to them. If you don't like what they're doing, don't participate. This is such a wrong way to approach things, because essentially what you're doing is you're isolating yourself into an echo chamber and you're putting a big fat target on your back, because in case you don't know this already, then the left is never going to rest on these issues. The left is a parasite. They're infected with whatever demonic agendas that they're pushing, and they necessarily are compelled to bring those out into the world. So there's nowhere you're going to go, there's no platform, there's no physical geographical location that you can go to where you can just be unaffected by all this, right? So it's important to kind of get that mindset out of your head, because that's a losing strategy. You're just going to lock yourself into an echo chamber until they control every necessary function and facet of society to where they can come for you without repudiation. It's not a winning strategy. And you can kind of see, like, we played the Uno reverse card unintentionally recently with the whole Twitter fiasco and what supposedly Elon Musk is trying to do over there. Elon Musk is not really our guy, but we'll have to see what comes of it. It could be something interesting, it could be something worthwhile, and it could be nothing at all. So, to be determined. But you see, kind of the left's immediate reaction to that was to immediately start calling for other places to go. You know, it was this it was this call to, I don't want to say inaction, but it was this call to retreat, basically. It was the same thing that the right was dealing with for a long time, which is, where do we go? What do we do when we're not allowed to voice our opinions and essentially influence society in the modern public square, which is Twitter or Facebook, or not really Instagram, but these social media platforms that allow you to have a voice in the modern public square. You can argue all day that we shouldn't be on these but the reality is you need to be. Not everybody does, and I'm not saying everybody should be twiddling their thumbs on their phones all day, kind of engaged with these platforms. But if you want to be influencing society in the right direction, then you absolutely need to be, because the reality is there is an extreme on both the left and the right, and the majority of people are the unwashed masses that exist in the center. And I am a firm believer that the majority of people do not need to be involved in politics. They shouldn't be. I want artists, I want musicians, I want skilled laborers, I want all these things. I don't want this modern liberal democratic notion that everybody should be a scholar in the realm of the political theater. It's counterintuitive, I think. If everybody's a politician, then not a whole lot's going to get done in our society. So I'm ranting and raving here, but the point is that we do need to be on these platforms in order to extend our voice out further than we otherwise could do if we're just locked in our echo chambers. And I like things like Gab. I like things like, well, I don't know, Truth Social is the one that Donald Trump's doing. I don't know how successful that is. I haven't heard much good from it, but we need to stop taking the passive approach, and we need to start getting active and into the public square and promoting our ideas, right? So circling things back to abortion, the reason this has become such a hot topic, contentious issue is because the right is fighting back. And this is a good thing. But the cultural fight doesn't stop here, right? Because we might be tempted to think that because we've gotten to a point now where the Supreme Court, after decades, is finally deciding to overturn Roe v. Wade, which it never should have passed in the first place. There's no constitutional authority for what they ever did. We might be tempted to think that victory is within our grasp. And I think that it's quite the opposite. It's almost like we're looking at one of those exponential growth curves. And when you're on an exponential growth curve, it gets steeper and steeper and steeper as you get towards the end of it, right? And so this curve that we're on, this fight that we're fighting now, it's going to be, the last bit of it here is going to be a steep incline towards the top. And those people who aren't willing to get out and to get active and to do something important and influential in society and have positive effects on society, then they're going to be victimized by whoever controls the narrative. And if we continue to be passive like the right has been for so many years, then the left is going to retain control. And that's just the sad truth of it. So I've got a high school class coming up on me here, so I will get back to you guys in a few minutes.
Wait, he's an influencer. You're an influencer? Follow him right now.
They recognize me.
1.2K.
On TikTok? Are you a TikToker?
Oh Lord. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How do I follow you?
New Columbia Movement.
New Columbia Movement.
Columbia movement on TikTok? Looking it up right now.
No, we're not on TikTok. Everywhere but TikTok. So I just convinced that high school that I was a influencer, and now they are all tracking on the New Columbia movement. That's how you win hearts and minds, folks. They're all going to learn about Christian nationalism now, an idea they've never been exposed to. They were looking for me on TikTok. This generation is so lost. Don't worry, I'm out here. I'm fixing it. Okay, we are so back. Thoughts are collected. Head's in the right space. Although I will say that it is a lot more difficult to collect your thoughts when you're also focusing on walking, especially when you're walking somewhere and you don't know where you're going, which is me right now. But anyway, so I wanted to get to the heart of the issue of the left seeing this whole abortion thing as a winning issue, because I think this is going to help them. And some people will say, this whole, they'll say this whole abortion issue is a distraction. Okay. I'm fine with that, because if this is a distraction, it's a good distraction to have, because I see this as the core issue. I mean, we're talking about fighting and winning the culture war and being the comeback kids that we need to be. It starts with abortion. I mean, if you can literally have state-sanctioned genocide of the most innocent, can't talk today, most innocent, it's kind of hard to convince anybody of anything else, you know? Especially when these young generations are exposed to the ideas that are being propagated on platforms like TikTok. So we have a long uphill battle. We are on the end of that exponential curve. But I think that the people who are here and are willing to fight that fight are going to be the ones who change the world, potentially. Certainly change this country for the better. So war gaming out a little bit, right? If this decision does go through and it gets passed, one, amazing, okay? That is a fantastic tactical victory, but we are still in a war. As I was saying earlier, this fight is only just getting started. We are in the final phases of it, perhaps, but this whole cultural war that has been building for some time now is coming to a crescendo at some point or another. What that timetable looks like, it is difficult to say. So I'm not going to give, timelines or predictions, because then I'm just going to be eating my own words at some point in the future. But this is coming to a crescendo. And maybe this is the issue. Maybe we rehash the abortion issue, and this is the hill that people are willing to die on for one side or the other. It's certainly the one I'm willing to die on. And hopefully for most traditional Christians, for most Christians in general, although I have to emphasize traditional because Christianity has become such a lukewarm term lately, hopefully this is the hill they all die on, too. Should be. Coming up on the Supreme Court now. Just a few months ago, we were here demanding the overturn, and here we are again a few months later, and it's a moderate crowd. Nothing too crazy. What you guys see? So there's a bit of a crowd here. I'm going to kind of gauge the crowd here for a little bit. Maybe we'll go and chat with some people and see kind of what's going on. Maybe get some questions in. Okay, so after walking around a little bit, I've definitely determined that this is a pro-abortion protest here. But we do have a couple folks here in the minority, right behind me. So, do you guys kind of just want to tell me what you're here for?
Well, we're here to represent pro-life, but more than anything, we're here to troll. I feel like if they can't take a joke, fuck them. So here's our sign.
We're out here hustling.
Out here hustling, just trying to get Roe v. Wade.
What's the sign mean?
Oh, well, once Roe v. Wade gets overturned, which it will, thank
These
God,
things, the value of
this
these
is
things
the
are going to
value's
skyrocket.
Okay, so you're out here trying to sell coat hangers, is that
Oh,
it?
yeah, man.
Yeah.
They're $1 a day. Who knows
Yeah,
what
man,
they'll be
it's like
tomorrow.
I was seeing pictures of Twitter last night,
Oh.
and like the one chick got the little.
Hold on, I got to get that on video.
Okay, I changed my mind. I'm pro-abortion.
You're pro-abortion now? Did that convince you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah,
that convinced us.
It convinced me too. So I think I have an inkling of where you guys stand on the political spectrum. But what would you identify yourselves as?
Libertarian.
Libertarian. Okay. I gathered with the "Don't Tread on Me" mask. So what do you think? Because this is just a draft opinion, right? This actually hasn't been released yet.
Right.
What do you think the chances are of this actually like come to full fruition? Of this actually getting voted on?
You know, that's the big thing, because as we've seen before, shit can quickly like spiral into violence, and
Right.
I think that's going to be what happens come summertime, which is concerning to me. But we also know the conservatives have a habit of backing down once shit starts flying.
A little bit of Summer of Love Part 2, perhaps, right?
Yeah.
I was
yeah,
talking about
absolutely.
this earlier because I think we remember 2020's Summer of Love, and that was kind of a directed attack against, you know, the racial tension that's been building somewhat organically, somewhat unorganically in this country for several years now, possibly decades, right?
Yeah.
This one I think is going to be a little bit different because you're looking, sorry I'm not doing a good job with my camera skills here, but you're looking at a pretty black and white moral issue for most people. I don't think there's really too many people who are going to find themselves on the middle ground of something like abortion. And something like abortion seems to me to be stemming from a very moral and theological worldview of what right and wrong looks like. So do you think that, you know, if this does develop into violence this summer, this could be something more targeting, say, like Christian communities or just, you know, traditional communities
Absolutely,
that are
dude.
against it? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think churches are at severe risk of being burned this summer.
Well, I mean, it was already happening in Canada last year
Yeah.
and the year before, right?
Yeah.
So there's already
But-
precedent for it.
Yeah, it's going to come full circle, man.
So
Last night
pretty.
they were chanting, the night before, "Hey, hey, ho, ho, Christian fascists got to go."
wow.
So now churchgoers are fascists as well, just like the pro-lifers called us fascists.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's that whole
They
idea
were
of
atheists for pro-life or something.
Yeah, and they kicked us out and they called us fascists, man.
who did.
They're gone now, I guess. Oh no, they're still over there. I
Yeah.
think. You might want
Yeah,
to
go.
interview
Yeah,
those
go
guys,
talk to
too.
those guys. They're a weird
Um,
bunch, man.
Yeah,
Over
I guess
under the
I said
tree?
Atheists
Yeah.
for pro-life. They got chased off by that crowd, so that shows you how tough they are and how much they really believe in their cause.
Interesting.
But and they also kicked us out. They saw my hat and assumed I was with somebody, and
Yeah.
they kicked us out.
Huh. Okay.
So
Well, if the response is violence come summer, or maybe even they don't have to wait till summer, maybe because the whole idea of probably releasing this was to intimidate some judges' votes, right? What do you think the response should be from people who are pro-life? What's the right way to go about it?
Protect your fucking home, man.
yeah, protect your own
That's
state
all it
of
comes
ground.
down to. No fucking Rittenhouse, no fucking any of that. Protect you and yours, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So,
It's a losing battle going out here usually. When it comes to that and being on the defense, you're demonized anyway if you're on the right. But other than that, I worry for the judges' safety.
Right.
Things like that.
Doxing and these types of things.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is a strategy of the left typically. So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you guys answering my questions.
yeah, no worries.
Good luck to you. Don't get beat up by the Antifa twigs. And,
We'll handle 'em.
hopefully, I'll see you around. I'll probably be down here to
Yeah, dude.
see what kind of roaches come out at night. So,
Yeah.
hey, how's it going? How you guys doing? Doing good. You guys out here pro-life or pro-choice?
Pro-life.
Pro-life. Awesome. Who you guys with? Or are you guys just out here on your
We're
own?
with POW, the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising, and with Rehumanize International.
Say it again. Progressive.
Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising and
Okay.
Rehumanize International.
Okay. Now, is that a religious affiliation or?
No, both of them are secular leftist organizations.
Okay. I was talking to some guys over there, and they said that they described you guys as atheists for pro-life. Is that an accurate reflection, or?
Well, we're very diverse, but a lot of us are atheists.
Including both executive directors.
Including both executive directors. There are a few of us who do hold religious beliefs, but we believe in unity through diversity, where we are coming together from our different walks of life and circumstances for the one purpose of supporting life and supporting all people.
So as Sonia was saying, it starts with finding an objective basis for when a human's life begins. The start of each of our life cycle is a definitive point.
Right.
And that's something, that's his claim, it's a statement that is falsifiable, meaning you're able to verify or disqualify that claim. And once you look into it, it's valid.
Right.
It's a valid claim, it is true.
Okay.
Then you look across society, in every corner across populations, religious, non-religious, find all the different categories. Like virtually everyone believes in the concept of human rights, believes that that concept is something to hold to, that it is valuable. We value human rights. And if we're going to say that that is a legitimate concept to believe in, how can we not apply it like universally across all members of the human species?
It's dangerous, right? Because then you're talking essentially about justifiable state-sanctioned genocide. And in this case, it's the most innocent, those who are the most defenseless.
Right.
So
Just because they're less mature than others, and because whoever's not in the procedure room at the time doesn't see them.
and they don't have a say in it.
Everyone, every single person was at one stage, just a zygote and an embryo. And we were all there, and I think we had value then, and we have value now. Like regardless of what stage of development we are who we are, and we matter. And like at that stage, they're completely defenseless. It's just they don't have any say, and that's why I think it's very, very important for people who do have a voice to stand up for them, because I know. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm glad I am here, and I think everyone deserves that right, period.
What do you think it looks like? Because obviously the legislation hasn't been passed yet. Right. Or it hasn't been overturned, I should say. If it does get overturned, which I think the timeline was like around June, what does it look like on both sides of the spectrum? How do things pan out? Because I think there's a fear of violence in this country that exists a little bit more than it used to, because there's been that in the past on perhaps both sides, right? So what do you say to that? What does that look like?
So after it goes to the states, right, like it's not just the pro-life mission to make abortion illegal. We also need to make it unnecessary and unneeded for women. So that's why we will continue. This is just the first step. This is a very positive step for the pro-life movement, but it's just the beginning for us, where we need to enact laws that will create a society of life. When abortion is this readily available, of course legislators aren't going to make it easier for businesses to make maternity leave a law or stuff like that.
Yep.
And that's why we have to build such a diverse coalition here. Like I'm a straight conservative Republican, but I'm wearing a progressive t-shirt because we can disagree on other issues, but what we can't disagree on is ending human life.
Right. But that was a organization called Progressives for Life. They seem to be an amalgamation of certain religious and political ideologies, but the one thing that they're all coming together on is they do support and advocate for pro-life. So interesting organization. I think, obviously coming from the traditional Christian perspective, there's going to be some things that they run into with lacking the very obvious and necessary foundational roots that come from traditional Christian moral principles to establish legitimacy for fighting against some of these things. But at the same time, they are arguing from a purely biological standpoint, and I think that that's a very valid standpoint as well, because you can make that argument, and even the religious right makes this argument as well, which is that there is a established time, there is an objective time at when a human life begins, and that is at the moment of conception, and it is a slippery slope otherwise. So we got some protests going here. Certainly there's some excitement here today, as you can see. Haven't gotten really the opportunity to talk to any pro-choice people yet. Part of that is self-preservation, but we'll get to it. Hey sir, you want to talk real quick? I was going to ask you about your sign.
Go for it.
So, it says Vets for Choice. What branch were you in?
Army.
Army? How many years?
6.
6? Awesome. Well, thank you for your service. So I'm kind of just out here talking to people. Basically, first question is why you're out here. What's the impetus for being out here today?
The Supreme Court, which has become a politicized institution that it's not intended to be, is making political decisions that a substantial minority of the people support, for political reasons, and that's not how the country's supposed to operate.
So you're out here in protest of basically the draft that was just released, right?
Correct.
Why do you think that they released that draft? Because that's unprecedented in the history of the Supreme Court. What do you think the reason behind that was?
Well, nobody knows who released it, so I'm not going to speculate on that.
Okay. So the decision's supposed to come out in June, I think is what I heard. The actual final vote decision. If the decision comes down and they overturn Roe v. Wade, what do you think the response will be, and what do you think the response should be?
Well, I think you'll see a response similar today, but even bigger. That's a good question. Like, what can we actually do when, right? You have a Supreme Court they're unaccountable to the population, so they can do whatever they want. They can't get fired. They can't lose their jobs. They can't be investigated. Nothing. So, in a sense, like, nothing will change because the Supreme Court is free to do whatever they want with no repercussions, unfortunately.
Last question. I'll let you get out of here. So back in 2020, shortly after the George Floyd incident, there was a lot of unrest, riots, and protests in the streets during that time. Do you think you'd see something like that? And do you think that that's something that would be justified if this gets overturned?
Well, I hope so. I marched 90 miles in Philadelphia that week of those protests. And, like, what the media would turn it into is this thing about, like, protesting or looting, right? Which is like not even, at least where I was in Philadelphia, every day there, for all of the protests, and none of the protests were about stealing or vandalizing or anything like that. Of course, you're going to have bad actors in any situation. So I think, of course, it's justified when, entire races of people, entire genders of people are being discriminated against, then 100%, we're not actually living up to the values that we're espousing. We're claiming we are, but we don't. We're tossing entire races and genders to the side. And for the most part, in state legislators and, right here in D.C., it's primarily white men making these decisions, and that's bullshit, in my opinion.
So did you have a problem with the fact that Roe v. Wade was originally passed by a Supreme Court that was entirely white men?
No.
So would you say that's a subjective standard, or is it the issue is white men, or is it the decisions being
I'm
made?
not saying the issue is white men, but it is problematic when the majority of people making these decisions are white men.
So you're saying it's underrepresentation?
Yes.
See, they bring in their best today. The louder you scream, the more right you are. That is how democracy works. The angrier you are, the more justified you must be. That is how democracy works. And it is cringe. In the words of John Doyle. Democracy is cringe. Read some Aristotle. You can see they have the yellow and blue signs because they don't want to lose sight of supporting the people of Ukraine and their ability to kill children too. Got some pro-choice dogs here.
We're out here to support
support women.
Out here to support women. So recently, it was released, the opinion draft that they're looking at overturning Roe v. Wade. Why do you think that got out? Because something like that's kind of unprecedented in the history of the Supreme Court releasing that stuff. Why do you think that happened?
Well, just listening to the talking heads, nobody really knows right now, and nobody knows what side let it out. And if someone from one side let it out just because they wanted to give the
fighting chance,
like the just like this, hey, let's pat ourselves on the back, this is coming. Or if somebody from that thought about pro-choice wanted to say, hey, this is coming, this is really bad, women are going to die, they're taking away a right. Nobody knows who let it out and for what reason, but yeah, I'm really happy it went out because it's really frightening, because women are going to die, and women are going to maybe lose their ability to have children if they do an illegal abortion and they get maimed, or it's just really frightening.
So in June, I think, is when the decision is actually supposed to be made. What do you think the chances are of Roe actually being overturned? Would you say it's kind of high, low, or neutral in your opinion?
Well, it just looks like from the leak that came out that it's it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's really frightening.
What do you think the response is going to be, and what do you think the response should be if it does get overturned?
Well, the response should be outrage that they're taking away rights from women.
Yeah. I think we remember back to 2020 after the George Floyd incident that there were a lot of people who were very upset, and there was a lot of protests and kind of riots in the streets over that. Do you think you could see something similar to that this go around if that happens?
I don't know. You would like to. I don't know.
Yeah. Not sure, but wouldn't be a bad thing if it did happen. Yeah.
Yes, because I just feel really sad for all young women and young men and young families that those options might be taken from them. That they can have healthy families and that women can have healthy childbirths. Because it's not just about unwanted pregnancies. This is about women who have really difficult pregnancies that could die from their pregnancies. And it's about, obviously the young girls like rape and incest. That's really a tragedy if they'd be forced to carry a child, because a lot of those little bodies can't tolerate it, and that affects their future reproduction. So I would love to see people out in the streets. So.
You kind of see like a limited counter-protest out here today from some of the pro-life crowds. There's going to be, I think, a bit of a victory lap from the right wing and from the pro-life crowds if this gets passed. What do you think the response to people on that side of the spectrum should be?
Well, I think we shouldn't necessarily assume that the number of people equates to exactly how the country's going to vote, particularly here. I also know that as a mom of 3 kids, I have 3 daughters, which is why I'm out here. I know that parents with children have a hard time making it out here between work and kid activities. So I wouldn't assume that because people are here, they're not supporting our side. If we are looking at numbers, I think I would look at last night where after work we had a huge crowd that far outweighed the pro-lifer side. But I also think one of the important things we need to do moving forward is wherever you live in the nation, I think you need to press your representatives, your elected officials, to pick a side. Are they pro-choice or are they pro-life? Because this has to be the big voting issue of our time.
Do you think that this is something that might influence the midterms? They're coming up this November.
I absolutely do. I think it took some of us by surprise. I know I woke up yesterday morning, and was in complete shock, dropped everything and came down here. I think some of us didn't realize how imminent this threat of removing abortion rights was, and I think this has been a big wake-up call for a lot of us.
Hey, sir, how you doing? Can I talk to you real quick? No. Oh, come on, you say it to them? You want to say to the camera?
You should have filmed it. I was after.
I didn't have my camera. I just wanted to ask you kind of what your opinions are. Just doing some independent
I'll
journalism.
talk to you off the camera, but I'm not getting on. I'm not on social media. I don't want to be on social media.
Can I film myself and let you talk?
Sure.
Okay. So can you just kind of reiterate what you were just saying there for a second ago? I didn't catch it on camera, but you sounded pretty passionate about it.
Just the fact that there's 66% Catholics on that court.
Mm-hmm.
There's 22% Catholics in the country, and the reason abortion's going away is because you have a 66% domination with a 22% population in the country.
So you think it's predominantly kind of religious driven, right? Like that the Catholics, because they dominate the court, people like Brett Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh, Coney Barrett, every one of them. 13th Amendment is against indentured servitude and slavery.
Okay.
If you tell a pregnant woman that she has to take a fetus to viability, what does she become? An indentured servant.
What do you say to organizations like Catholics for Choice? These are pro-choice organizations that also identify as Catholic.
I would say in America, you're allowed to have those opinions, but they're yours, and you can't force them on the majority of the population or even any of the population.
So you'd argue like separation of church and state, religious opinions shouldn't be reflected in the courts?
Completely, yes.
So do you think that if...
But look, you got a problem here. You've got Democrats on the left that want to violate the sanctity of your body with a fucking unproven vaccine. And you've got religious zealots on the right that want to violate her womb.
So you're coming at it from the libertarian perspective.
I'm coming at it of a point where you realize that the whole thing is just bullshit. That you realize that court is so full of shit, it's disgusting. That they talk about precedents when they want to talk about precedents, and then they want to ignore it when they want to ignore it. They want to talk about the Constitution when it was written. It's a plantation document. Did you sign it? I didn't sign it. You didn't sign it. No one here alive signed the document. No one has been asked to sign it. But yet they think that they can go into her womb. That's so goddamn un-American, it's not even funny. It's not even un-American, it's against natural law,
This was the initial draft. If the final vote does come to fruition and Roe v. Wade is overturned, what do you think the reaction will be and what should it be?
I know what my reaction is going to be, which is I don't like the slavers that are Supreme Court justices. And that includes Clarence Thomas, who in this position, voting for this and to make women indentured servants to breed for the state, he becomes a black slaver. And we all know what black slavery is, right? The worst.
Thanks for talking.
Cheers.
So why are you out here today?
I just think I'm really big on coming out to stand up for what I believe in, not just posting it on social media. I know everybody doesn't believe in stuff like that, but I just think I'm pretty passionate about this just because for the fact I think it's a pretty natural right. And you don't have to be pro-abortion to be pro-choice. And I think that's something people need to see a little bit more. So I just am out here to stand up for what I believe in. But I also was here to try to hear out the other side in a respectful way, because I think it gets hard with that. I was talking to that guy. I don't agree with him in any sense.
This guy up here?
No. The guy that was with him, he's over there getting ice cream or whatever. But we were just talking, and it was kind of agree to disagree. I just think it's fundamentally wrong at the end of the day to tell people what they can or can't do with their body. And then a lot of those were the same people that were my body, my choice with the mask stuff. So then I just think everybody's argument's a little hypocritical with that sense. So.
What was the kind of fundamental disagreement when you guys got down to brass tacks?
I think the fundamental disagreement was, when does life begin? I think that's kind of the stem of everything that has to do with this. And I just said, I believe life starts when a human or fetus could fully live outside of the womb on its own. And I know that's a little controversial with the California 28 days after birth thing, but I think for me, I think abortion is up to the mom when it comes to that. You have to let people make those decisions. They all suffer the consequences, both on their conscious and physically, but you can't tell people what they can and can't do, in my opinion.
Right. So you're saying essentially once the fetus, once the baby comes out and it's able to sustain life without dependency on its mother, at that point, that would constitute life in your opinion, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when I think. I don't think it's at conception or what their side is. That's my opinion.
Okay. Now I think the counter to that would probably be something somebody would say, if the ability to sustain life on your own is the justification, then does that mean that, people paralyzed in a hospital or people who are, deaf, blind, and dumb or something like that are dependent on somebody else? Does that rule them out, and how would you square that argument?
Yeah, I would just say that's different because they can survive outside of the womb in a sense. Like, I think it's different when it comes to babies because they haven't even gone out in the world and breathed their first breath, did all of those things. I think it's different when it's deaf, dumb, blind, or like people that are paralyzed. I think some people, that's why they just get do not resuscitate orders and things like that. And I think at that point, it becomes their decision when it comes to like being on life support and stuff like that. But that's where I stand on it. Like, if it's not been out in the world and lived yet, then it's not a life, in my opinion, without surviving on its own.
Do you think that if there was a child in the womb and the doctors were able to determine that that child was going to come out, whether it was paralyzed or mentally retarded or any of these things, is that a justification for abortion? Is there kind of a moral framework or foundation of what justifies abortion, or is it always going to be up to the mother?
I think it's up to the mother. And when stuff like that, like I have talked to people that have had abortions and it can weigh really heavy on your conscience. So I think for you, it's on you to weigh those pros and cons. Like if you feel like it's the right decision for your situation and it would benefit all parties, I feel like we just have to let people make that decision. I think third trimester and things like that, they get hard because it's pretty close to life. But I think like if you've gone like sought out a genetic counselor or someone was like, look, I don't know if this is the right decision, then I think you should have that choice to be like, hey, like this would not benefit, like that would be no life to live in that way. I think it's hard because then you can get into like, is that murder and like with stuff being outside of the womb, but that's how I see it.
I've been to Florida. Where? For cheerleading, we had to go to you don't want to know. Yes.
All right, folks, so I'm out here with AJ. You probably don't recognize him, but he was the gentleman in the video who appropriately called out Elizabeth Warren the other day when she was out here pretending to be enraged by the fact that the Supreme Court is actually finally doing the right thing.
Right. 69% of people across this country, red states and blue states, old people and young people, want Roe versus Wade to maintain.
We don't want to dismember children in the womb, ma'am. We are not going to stand for dismembering 3,000 children in the womb every single day.
So, in your estimation, what would you say kind of the caliber of the people here that are out here representing right now?
Yeah, overwhelmingly pro-choice, I think for a few reasons. One, this happened on a Monday night, and everybody in DC is overwhelmingly liberal anyway, so you're going to get mostly locals out here. The amount of people that can willy-nilly just drop everything, take work off and come here, it's due to the political makeup of DC, and then also just in general, like spur of the moment. The people that are going to be here are going to be local, insider baseball, local people who are overwhelmingly leftist. So you're not going to see an accurate depiction of the makeup of America on any given day here, probably until the weekend.
And I was also noticing it seemed like a lot of the pro-choicers are predominantly younger college-age women. That might have something to do with it too.
Sure, yeah, no, I mean they're unbelievably upset that they can't dismember their children, for any possible reason. So they're out here literally crying because they can't get enough bloodshed.
Yeah.
So it's disgusting.
So this decision obviously hasn't been made yet. The decision is going to be coming, I think, sometime in June. What do you think, in your layman's opinion, the actual chances of that passing are, and then what will the reaction to that be?
Yeah, a lot of this is speculation. I mean, all of it is speculation, honestly, from anybody. Anybody who tells you differently is wrong, but I don't think that they are going to change their opinion at this point because all 98 pages of this decision have been leaked. Okay. And not only that, but if you read the decision, it's like the most hardened pro-life individual wrote it. It was, right? Alito's a hardliner. So for them to have something leaked that gave not only the decision, but the general makeup of that decision in favor of this decision via the court, and then have them rescind that and flip, it would do horrible damage to the integrity of what's behind the Supreme Court, and it would make it look like a horribly hacked politically charged, vulnerable group. And so I think just due to only, if nothing else, the integrity of their reputation, I don't think that any of these judges will do anything different. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion on it.
I was talking to a lot of the pro-choicers out here today, the abortion activists, better term, and a lot of them seem to be okay with the idea that if this does come to its fruition, that violence on the scale of what we saw during the 2020 Summer of Love is an appropriate reaction. Do you think that's something that's possible? And
it's funny. So I was one of probably 10 or 15 people yesterday in a sea of probably 6,000 out here in front of these steps yesterday. And we were viciously attacked. I was spit on, literally women coming up and spitting in the face. So yeah, do I think that's a possibility? Especially after, a year of BLM riots and burning down of America? 100%. I don't think listen, people that want violence will resort to violence. Mm-hmm. So if you want and believe in the violence, taking the violent act of taking another human's life because of any particular reason you deem necessary, without apology, at any age, do I think you are capable of other forms of violence if you don't get your way or if that's taken away from you? Yeah. By logical extension, yes.
I mean, ultimately, their ideology is rooted in violence
exactly.
and the expression of violence, so it's not a leap 100%. To say that they would act on that. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you talking to me. I appreciate everything you're doing out here,
and
hopefully you get to see Elizabeth Warren again and finish that conversation.
Real quick, that was funny because after something like that happens, you always think of what you would have said, right? Yeah. But here we have a woman who comes out here off of her high horse as an elitist and wants to speak on behalf of the American people, bringing bunk statistics as if all of America is for her and for the dismemberment of children, while she, as an elitist, wants the type of policy to decide who lives and who dies among us, is disgusting, and it's just so far from the truth. Listen, men and women don't want abortion. So these statistics that are coming out that she's spouting, it's off of generalized questions like, do you want Roe to be overturned? Mm-hmm. But by Roe, I can guarantee you not all of those people know what Roe is. Mm-hmm. When Roe got passed, it guaranteed the right to kill at any stage in all 9 months. Mm-hmm. And every single one of the polls in 22 states now, if this gets over, will immediately say overwhelmingly, no, that's not what we want. So
I think that poll was the Gallup poll that was cited, the one that she was using, and it was saying something like 70% of people didn't support the overturn of Roe v. Wade. But
it's bunk. Yeah. It's bunk science. It's not. People don't realize what they're saying. When you look at every other poll that says, do you support abortion for any reason through all 9 months of pregnancy, which Roe was, overwhelmingly the answer is no.
Yep. And I think we need to make people aware of that more because, like you were saying earlier, the people out here, and lately on Twitter too as well, right? They've really had a monopoly in public opinion.
Sure.
And I think that a lot of these people think that they may be in the majority. I mean, I heard this from some people saying, because they were referencing those Gallup polls, or not directly, but they were thinking about those Gallup polls and saying, the majority of people don't want to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Sure.
And it is a little bit of that ivory tower elitism that you were saying was stemming from like the Elizabeth Warren types, and they truly can't comprehend the fact that there is a vast majority of this country that wants to see that done away with, and that's also probably the reason for the visceral reaction that we saw during the Trump election.
Yeah, and here's the other part. Even if 99%, if 99% of the public wanted slavery, that wouldn't make it right. Exactly. So the statistics on who should be killed and who shouldn't be killed does not change the fact that a human is a human and equally valuable from the moment of conception. And anybody that loves science and claims to have moral progress should be behind that. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much
yeah,
for talking
good to talk
me.
to you, man. God bless you.
Women's rights are under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. When women's rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When women's rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back.
Alrighty, folks. Well, just finished up a long day at the Capitol. By the end of the day, there was not much counter-protesting, and I kind of just sat in the back and watched it unfold. A lot more people came towards the end of the day. There was a lot of energy. People are definitely seemingly ready and willing to fight for their right to murder and slaughter babies. There were a couple people up there that were giving little speeches on an open mic. Essentially, somebody had a little microphone up there, and they were talking about, you know, if necessary, they're going to go to jail and use violence if that's what it takes. So they're obviously motivated, they have the energy, and they have the fight in them. And because ultimately they're motivated by demons. I mean, these are just awful people with awful policies, and they are like a plague, and they want to spread. So be ready for a fight. Who knows what this turns into? Pray to God that the judges make the right decisions and they're not intimidated by any of the scare tactics that the left is trying to use right now. Roe v. Wade getting overturned is a big first step in the fight to make abortion unthinkable again in this country. So get down on your knees at night, pray for that resolve, but also get out in the public square and fight on behalf of these traditional Christian values, and hopefully we can start to see some change. So hopefully we can get out and do more stuff like this in the future. Thank you all for tuning in. God bless, and I'll see you next time.